See anything out of here? Bring this meeting to order. We'll start off with the pledge of allegiance, please. We all stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda or amend it.
So I'd like to make a motion to amend so that we can add board comment, mayor comment.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
There's a motion and there's a second. Any conversation? Not hearing any. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. The agenda to add a topic at the end where 4 is currently in 4F, and that is to allow for board comment. Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is the fiscal 25 budget amendments.
Second.
The motion and a second. Is there any comments, thoughts? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. First agenda item is the fiscal year 26 budget. City Manager Saldo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We finally have the conclusion of a long budget process, so we look forward to starting off the fiscal year with a strong position going into this next fiscal year. Tonight, we were able to meet with the local business owner last week that brought forward comments about the community building fees. So we revised those to come up with a more palatable increase for those. Working with her, so that is good for that item without affecting the overall budget. So that concludes my remarks. So I just ask for a motion to approve the FY26 budget ordinance and accompanying fee schedule as presented. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Second. There's a motion and a second. As a comment.
I do have some comments. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
One, I want to start off by saying I had the opportunity to sit down with the city manager and the finance director, and I want to start by saying that I appreciated their patience with me and the work that has gone into creating this budget. I do have a few comments not changing the budget, but for consideration. Because we're discussing the budget, I would like to consider the need for our planning staff to have access to attorney advice and review and other resources regarding UDO processes, text amendments, and et cetera. I bring this up because the next agenda item we'll be talking about a text amendment, the CZ. And we learned at our last meeting that some of the recommended language that was sent to us by the planning board was inconsistent with state statute. And in fact, some of the language Mr. Terrell identified as inconsistent with 160D is currently in our UDO. So it wasn't made up language. We just went through some text amendment updates to bring the UDO into compliance with changes that the legislature has made in 160D. So for me, it's a little disconcerting to have Mr. Terrell's review of conditional zoning reveal additional compliance issues with the UDO. So the question was asked, what could be the result of trying to enforce this non-compliant language? And the response was that if we were sued, the city would lose and be responsible for paying the expenses of the complainant. Much like we as a board rely on professionals like the city manager and the city clerk to make sure we don't overstep and our actions are consistent with state statute. The planning board is no different. In order for them to accurately complete their duties as granted by state statute, the members of the planning board must have the support and guidance of professional planning staff. We're lucky to have a strong planning board made up of citizens that have volunteered to share their time and bring incredible knowledge to the table. You see this at every planning board meeting that we attend. And we are lucky to have, however, as hard as these volunteers work for the community they love, it is the job of our professional planning staff to make sure the work of the planning board is consistent with state statutes. The city provides the Board of Adjustment an attorney to advise them during meetings. Perhaps more attorney guidance and review are needed to also support the work of the planning board. It is the responsibility of staff to provide the volunteer members of the planning board with the knowledge and recommendations they need to complete their work. And this is actually written in the UDO places. And then along with the planning board recommendations come to us, when the planning board recommendations come to us, they are reviewed by the city attorney as part of our agenda. But this does not supply the support and guidance that the planning board needs to do their duties. There's really two parts to this for me, I think. The planning board needs to know that they have the information they need to make good decisions, and the volunteer time they're putting in is worthwhile. And the planning staff needs the tools to provide an accurate foundation for the planning board's deliberations. And so as part of this upcoming year's goals and spending considerations, it's important that our planning staff have all the tools they require to support the work of the planning board. It is for our planning boards, it's for our planning staff to determine what may be needed. And I would ask that the city manager help facilitate this.
Absolutely.
And then the other.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh,
I agree with you.
okay.
I'll take it for Mark today. How do you envision this working? An attorney at the meetings with?
Well, I think that's for planning staff to determine. I think that, you know, they go into these work committees and they're working and doing, and if they're not told what they're looking at and what they're considering is consistent with state statute at that point, then they're doing work that then's gonna come to us, and then we're gonna say, oh no. You know, so I think planning staff and the city, they can determine what that process could look like or what tools they may need and that sort of thing. I think that's really hopefully them. I'm not sure what that means, to be honest. Because
I'm curious only that, you know, this is, as we well know, attorneys don't work for free.
Well, I
This
think
is a budget issue.
it will be a budget issue, but this is money well spent. We are nothing without a plan.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that became apparent to me in our last meeting.
Might I suggest that we consider that before a recommendation from the planning board gets to us, that the manager think about whether or not it has to go through an attorney to double check that. The one section, you and I had this conversation multiple times about that one section, and in the UDO, as we've said multiple times, is a living, breathing thing. So the fact that in the past, a sentence or two was stuck in there innocently enough,
Right.
which was wrong. In the future, I would like that document to go through the attorney before it gets to us. We're not debating something because I don't have a shingle hanging outside my door that says Esquire on it, but that may be a way to look at it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I do think that it needs to be at a foundational level. I don't think they need to be in work committees working on language that is inconsistent.
Well, then
And so-
you make a good point, is that my idea would be at the very end, and they've spent all that
Well,
time and energy to do it. Maybe on text amendment issues, they have an idea of changing the text that before they spend a whole lot of work. I'm not sure I can do the best. We have a conflict manager, so I think your point is well taken.
Yeah, I just think staff is better equipped to decide what that could look like. Just understanding that from the beginning of their process, they need that support in order to bring to us the consistent
And we go through all of this, and whether it's the planning board or the board of adjustment or anybody else, where our budget will continuously go up for legal fees, and that's just the way of having to do business. We have to have a lawyer now at the board of adjustment to support them. And then we have another attorney at the board of adjustment supporting us. So there's a lot of attorneys running around, but
Yes,
it's,
that's just.
it's an interesting point. Yes, sir.
It seems to me, if we had an attorney there, it would save them a lot of time and effort as they go through to make sure that everything that they're doing fits the letter of the law. That way they're not having to bounce back and forth, because they've got a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done with coordinating between the planning board and our planning staff. It would be nice if we could just go through it one time as we're going through, oh, wait, gotta go back. That just makes sense. And there's an expense at the same time, as you said. I think people are really well spent.
Any other comments on?
I didn't. Yeah, sorry. No, and that was it for the planning board conversation. I just wanted to make sure, I didn't see in the sidewalk, we had talked about this earlier last year about the grant for sidewalks between the ABC store and Dozier Hospital. Remember, we got that grant? And I just want to make sure we're all up because it will expire this coming year if we don't take advantage of it. So I just wanted to make sure that was in the mix. And
We had talked about making sure it went around the oak trees.
yes, ma'am, it did. That was all part of the conversation to be followed up on.
I don't know who's here yet for that. So.
Right, good.
Yeah,
Good
I'm not sure I ever heard that in the past. Who's the project lead for that? Somebody's got to have their name on the document. That's what they do that.
Yeah, just making sure. It's just so it
It's like,
because I'm sure she does. It's time sensitive, right? So, and then, the other thing is recognizing we got the one-time money, from the sale of Certain Point that will reside in the general fund. What I would like to ask that we consider, that the board consider earmarking it for land purchase, it residing in the general fund, but earmarking it for future land because it's one-time money. It was from a sale of land, and we know that we're gonna have land transactions in the future. So rather than it getting just absorbed into the 55% or whatever, so I would like us to consider that conversation. And then I talked with.
Before you move on to, is that the end of that topic?
Yeah,
Can I ask you a question?
sure.
Okay. So clarify in my head, the 600,000+ comes over. Did that allow us to balance the budget? Are we using it this year to balance the budget? Or are we putting it into the?
We did not have to use it to balance the budget.
did not.
So it will roll into general fund
Okay.
balance.
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
can
I
do
just want to make
something
sure I
like
was
that.
clear on that.
Yes, and my understanding, I just want to say, that you correct me, because this was from our conversation, as I recall. The explanation of the 1.4 deficit and why we're not having to spend other money is because we really were growing the fund by about a little over 2 million, right?
That's right.
And then the fact that, yeah, that is a 1.4 deficit, but we're still growing the fund. So it's not like we don't have that 1.4 money, but we're not without money.
That's right.
For lack of a
Well,
better
and
way
we
to say it.
originally thought, the money that carried over from water and sewer every year, we thought, hey, we're losing that, that'll.
Right,
Deficit. It did take into account the general budget revenue and expenditure picture, which we are way exceeding revenues from expenditures outside the water and sewer money. So absolutely, that's where that originated. We no longer have that deficit because of the budget growth and.
Right. Right, thank you for your patience in that. And then the only other thing with the conversation was the electric underground. We talked about the fund as we're depleting the fund and building the fund. If we could kind of construct a longer range picture for that so that we don't come to the end of our resources in 3 years, or we know we are, or however we plan for it. So if we could get some kind of analysis for that, that's on my items.
Well, we did learn that is healthier than we thought as well, right?
Exactly. And I think we talked about maybe having a similar fund balance policy to the general fund. So, whatever that number is, we can make sure we don't go below that as we plan for the underground. So I think it definitely will take a look at that and make sure.
Okay, a question for you. I like the idea of the earmarking those funds for future land purchases. We've got a wish list, of course. Do we need an amendment for the budget to make that official?
I mean, it would be either way. I mean, we don't have to at this point. I mean, we can come back with another amendment as we go into the fiscal year once we get that fuller picture. So I think that'll be fine. I mean, we'll eventually do that as we get to that point. So,
I just want to make sure we don't middle away.
right,
No, I hear you.
right.
Okay, thank you.
So would it be safe to say that, I'm gonna start with Paul Gross. So Paul Gross comes in, he's there for 6 months, he starts writing policies and procedures. Lance comes in, he's doing more policy and procedures.
Right.
Our current finance officer is in there writing more policies and procedures, and because of those three gentlemen, we have taken a system that was not stellar. I think we're moving it absolutely in correct fashion, because every time we have a discussion about a budget, whether it's, we thought we were spending 1.8 million or 1.6 million dollars for underground, and we're only spending $1 million for underground because that's what the capacity of the vendor can have. Well, none of us knew that. Now, as we progress from a broken system to a system that seems to be much better in status, I want to thank those three gentlemen for moving us forward, because we're learning things that we didn't know before.
I would say it wasn't a broken system, it was an evolving system, because we were a small town. So I think
Okay.
it might be a little harsh to use the word broken, but I would say, yes, we're heading into the 21st century.
Okay.
Into.
From the 18th, we go to the 21st.
It's a
Okay.
journey, it's all you see, it's a journey.
Do you have any other comments?
No, thank you, that's it.
Does anybody else have any comments or rebuttals or any thoughts? All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second to approve the budget. Is not hearing any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? The budget is unanimous. Thank you.
First budget I voted for. Give it to you.
Not a surprise. That's a single street sweeper conversation.
All right,
Yeah, what selling the street?
okay. Agenda item number 2, which is the UDO zoning text amendment. Mo, are you up, ma'am? And do you want to fill us in on the other question that came up?
Sure, I can do that for you. So the sidewalk grant that is, for the sidewalks from Owen Street to Dover Memorial, we have just received the, agreement from the CDOTs. That was part of the process that staff was trying to get up to speed. We didn't realize, I think there was some miscommunications between staff and DOT. At some point, people thought that it was already processing and DOT was going to be doing the engineering, but city is going to be doing all the engineering and construction with the reimbursement. So we've gotten we just got the agreement this morning, so we'll be signing that.
How timely.
Right, exactly. Right, you get good news. So we have that agreement, so that'll be signed off by the city and the finance director. And then we'll be able to move forward with our engineering. So we are having a kickoff meeting this week with Tom Stanley and Tom Zelenik, myself, and our representatives from Division 3 engineers and the NCDOT grants. So that's in the process now.
Will city staff be you can handle doing the physical labor?
No,
We're
we'll
gonna contract.
yes, we contracted it out. And we did have to walk with Ron Van Vliet, who's one of our engineers. So we did walk the whole right of way, and I also walked it with Tom Stanley and Tom Zelenik to make sure that we can get around the trees where we need. We have ample right of way, except in a few places. The corner of 9th Street is going to be our biggest challenge because all the junction boxes for the lights there and the parking lot for locals. So we've got some challenges, but we're working on those right now.
Awesome.
So, Mr. Manager, this is a conversation that the board has had a couple of times now. I believe it was Alderman Kelly who mentioned a Gantt document for projects in which there's a name posted at the top. Says you are responsible for making sure this happens, and you are responsible for reporting back to the manager about the outcome of that.
I'm hoping that we're moving forward with that kind of concept because this is not the first time that we've had projects that just got misled, Whaley off the rails because we agreed to do something, but we never put anybody in charge of something. So as we move forward, hope that we do better.
And I want to start also providing, probably a monthly update to the board on all of our projects, where we're at, what we need to accomplish and where we're going, so that everybody can keep up to date on where we're going and what needs to happen.
If locals being the spot that there's possibly some hiccups, I would love to make sure we're talking to the owners of that business as well.
Yeah, and we're not gonna do anything radical.
No.
And we have also even talked about taking it across the street to the other side of the street and going across. So we're working through those things. Absolutely, the property owner is part of the conversation. Thank you very much. Yes.
Those types of things will end up at the roundtables that the manager has put in. We're actually now talking business owners.
Yes.
And I waylaid you.
No,
So
that's-
now, if you would be so kind.
Yeah, I'm just gonna give a brief, review. This is the conditional, I apologize, the text amendment for conditional rezoning and the appendix A for the UDO. We had our required public hearing at your June 12th meeting. The language of your packet includes the applicant, planning board, and the changes from Mr. Terrell that were included. So, the planning board has recommended approval and staff recommends approval of the changes that were brought forward at the last meeting. Any questions about that?
Robert. You heard the.
She,
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the proposed amendments to the UDO section 2.11, conditional rezoning and appendix A, submittal requirements of the UDO and attached consistency statement in favor, as recommended by Attorney Conti.
second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this topic?
I brought it up during our last meeting. I just want to mention that again to anyone who did not hear that. Please go back and listen to my thoughts and feelings and how I got here.
Any other comments? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously, thank you. Next topic is the development agreement between Waterway and, oh, you're up again.
Yes, sir, thank you. This is the approval by ordinance of the development agreement between the City of Southport and Waterway Southport LLC. The document that you have in your packet includes the changes that were approved, the suggestion with the native plantings and the dark sky initiative by the board.
Awesome. I move to approve the ordinance and development agreement between the City of Southport, North Carolina and Waterway of Southport LLC as presented in the agenda packet, subject to the following conditions. 1, city staff is authorized to correct any typographical errors and fill in any blanks in the document for final execution. And 2, Exhibit G of the agreement containing the UDO shall be updated to reflect the version of the ordinance adopted by the board.
Is there a second to that motion? There's a motion and a second. Is there any conversation on the topic? Not hearing any. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. I guess the last one is the condition of zoning map amendment, PZ 2501 Waterway Community. Who said that?
This next item is the request for conditional rezoning map amendment with associated master development plan for the Waterway community. As you know, this is a section of the property that was part of the development agreement that is within the city limits. It includes approximately 48 acres, 199 multifamily, 2-family and single-family homes are proposed, approximately 10,000 square feet of non-residential uses at the marina. We had our public hearing at the June 12th meeting, so I will answer any questions that you may have.
Does anybody have any questions for Mo on this topic?
I'll make a motion to adopt the conditional zoning map and master development plan as proposed by the applicant. Attached consistency statement and statement of appropriateness.
Is there a second to that motion? Is there a second? Is there any conversation on the topic?
I just want the public to go back and look at our last meeting if they have questions about how we got here. It was a long process. This is not a rubber stamp by any stretch of the imagination. We have been working with the developers and landowners to make this possible to bring into the city of Southport. And to part of that is making sure that the land that is already in the city of Southport works as best we can ask for it to.
Any other comments? I'm just going to throw my comment in again. And that is that there's been lots of noise out there about doing things behind closed doors and all kinds of other concepts. And we have constantly been in contact with our development attorney, who's one of the best in the state, to make sure that we did everything correctly. This board was constantly updated and asked questions about path forward. Just to recall, Robert and I were asked by the board, and voted by the board to represent the elected officials in the process. When we got to decision points, we would come back to this board and brief them as to what happened and ask for their guidance to move forward each and every time. That is how development agreements are done. They're not done on a billboard outside on House Street. It is the way that the business world works. And we then post it all before we actually vote on things, so comments can be had. Then there's public comment on it. This topic has been public commented for 4.5, 5 years, whatever it is. Hundreds of people have come to us. There used to be, when we were in the community building, I remember that one of the first meetings, we had so many people, they had to open up the doors and the people outside rotated past the open doors to hear what was going on. That's how much involvement this has been. And so when the world changed and ETJ was gone, the world changed, and that changed the direction of the board and what we could do and not do. So we have, I believe, come to the best conclusion for the city, for the residents, for the developer, for everybody involved, based on the conditions that we face now. And with that,
Can I add something?
yes, ma'am.
Close observers of the board of Aldermen, which seem to be everybody in town, probably noticed that at the end of every board of Aldermen meeting, going back to before the beginning of this year, we were going into closed session. Well, there were some other issues, sometimes personnel, but every one of those involved updates on this is where we are in discussions with our attorney and with the Indigo developers or waterway developers. This is what's at issue now. These are the decisions we're going to have to consider. What you're thinking. And, you know, we were there till 11:30 one night going over all of this. And just like whenever you've been involved in a real estate transaction, you know that you don't publicize what you're doing. And I don't know if that's law per se, but we would have gotten nowhere if the public were aware of every step of this, because sometimes something would come up and we would say, no, didn't we say we didn't like that? Well, why should we like it now? And then Robert and Rich would fill us in further and we'd move on. It was slow, it was tedious, but we got to where we are now. And we've got something that I don't necessarily like, but nothing is ever perfect. So, you know my saying, you've heard it from me many times, we can't let perfect be the enemy of good.
This is good.
Any other comments?
At the end of the day, we're working with the developers. And we have to be very, very thankful for that.
I think as we go down the road, this project develops over time. The city of Southport, the people of Southport will be happy with what they see up there because it's going to be done right. We spent a great deal of time putting this thing together over the years. And I think the decisions that were made, I think that you two guys have put it together for the city, for the attorney, did a great job. And I think the city of Southport should be appreciative of what you did.
Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes, unanimously. Thank you. That brings us to the last thing, which is board comments. Frank, I'll start with you, sir.
Just finished.
Okay. Mark?
Sir.
Rebecca? Hello?
So,
Robert?
Oddly enough,
I've been enough.
I received an email, Saturday night, at 6 PM from the legislature, subcommittee, the notification that Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning, the de-annexation bill, 337, that was sponsored by our Representative Miller, will be before the Finance Committee. So my understanding would be that that would be in an effort to continue to move this forward. They have apparently, the annexation is so popular, they've created a subcommittee on annexation and de-annexation within the legislature finance committee. Interesting. And so I just want, I am planning to go at 8, try to be there at 8:30 in the morning, because we all understand that this is not in my favor. The properties that are in question are the properties where Southport Dog is located on, the property that it's located on, and the parcel behind it are two of them, which are between 12th and 14th Street. I mean, they're in town. And then the other one is the Southport Motor Cars parcel of land that business is located on. They're in different names. They're not in those business names, the owners of the properties. But the one, especially Southport Motors, is near our entrance corridor. It is a huge parcel by comparison to other parcels that then would fall under county zoning and 55 feet, all the different height conversations, and just the different standards that, because we do not have an overlay, my understanding is there's some question about whether we're even going to get the ability to create an overlay this go round from the legislature. We were promised that we would be able to do that. So anyway, I just want citizens, we're all looking for ways to help the city. This is not in the best interest of our town. This will take money out of the budget that we just passed.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Just for the record, is the owners of the businesses are also the owner, in this case, the owners of the land?
Well, they're in different names. I would not say that.
Okay.
I would say that those businesses are located on those parcels. Is how I would frame that, because they're.
I asked that question because I've done research.
Yeah, and so that's what they're in, like LFCs and different things, right? So, I don't want to say that, but I do want people to know what parcels we're talking about, and that's why I'm referencing the businesses that are located there. But this is a real sad that not only were we stripped of our ETJ, now they're going to take us apart parcel by parcel.
a very vivid illustration of what we're going to be looking at if we do lose these is on the for sale sign. It's actually a billboard that says county zone, up to 5+ stories high allowed. I mean, if you drive down House Street, there it is, right in your face. And I suspect that that's exactly what we'll get.
Someone who tried to get that, you're probably right, unfortunately.
Any other comment?
Yeah, that's grateful for the good thing and start to the budget here in a few days.
I want to congratulate the Board of Aldermen for their hard work on this. Many questions. We've gone through many interesting meetings. The follow-up on Alderman Marceller's comment about the overlay. Please, I may have the bill numbers wrong. There was a bill, I think it was 576, something. And that was supposed to eliminate the bill from last year that said you couldn't have down zone.
Yeah.
So the down zoning bill, we were sure was going away because Senator Lee wanted it to go away from. And then there was conversation about that on the House level. The House started the bills and it goes to the Senate this particular year. We all thought that that had been crossed over when I was in Raleigh 10 days ago, whenever I was in Raleigh. And I was sitting in one of the offices. We learned at that moment that it never made crossover. Even our representatives didn't know it had not made crossover. And so then I was told about Senate Bill 204, 205, something like that, which really the league absolutely against having. It's going to hurt a number of municipalities across the state. I've talked to the league multiple times about that. But that's still moving back and forth. I specifically asked about the down zoning issue, and what I was told is that's okay. We're not going to entertain it. Now, the person saying that did not have the authority or the voting. They couldn't even vote. It was a staff member. So I listened and I shook my head and that I understood what he was saying. But the County Commissioners Association for the state of North Carolina, they want that down zoning ability. We want that down. We all want that down zoning ability because it'll allow us to go into an agreement with the county for the overlay for the entranceway, basically House Street, all the way up to House Street, or going all the way out. We would be able to collectively, working collaboratively with the county, be able to limit how tall buildings were, what kind of building. We could do a lot of work to make it aesthetically, professionally, and economically viable entranceway into the city. Unfortunately, right now, the county zoning, Alderman Bo Davis just talked about, and Frank just talked about, could allow for up to a 75-foot building, depending on the setbacks that you have on the piece of property, how big the property, but certainly flexible. And any kind of building, any kind of business, any kind of anything. So we're kind of stuck right now. And as with other topics, the city is pretty good at, when they want to go and write to everybody in the world, in Raleigh, to explain why this would be a good thing, why this would be a good thing for the introduction of this municipality or any other municipality to be able to work collaboratively with the county and municipalities, which in the past, basically, there's a lot of baggage on both sides of that equation. We are trying to do. This would come before the planning board. This would come before us. We'd be able to work and figure out what we're trying to do. So as we move forward, we try to move forward and actively work with Raleigh as best we can, with the county, with everybody. It is a new age, but right now we're getting kicked in the head, but that's where we are. So with that, if there's any comments to my comment, I'll entertain them. If not, yes, ma'am.
A question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
We're asking the community to get involved, to write letters, to make phone calls. What specifically do we hope that people will ask for?
The ability for municipalities and counties to do down zoning when appropriate.
I just want to be sure people have.
And not pick our community apart by the annexation, despite the annexation.
Yes,
I mean, that's a simple one, but damn.
So-
That's immediate,
that's an
That's-
immediate issue because it's this week.
And the fee of Senate Bill 205, which would.
Right.
And it's
Yeah,
205.
take one time away from.
The, and as I said, the League of Municipalities is trying to work with all the municipalities to defeat 205. How successful they'll be is yet to be seen. And with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Can I ask one
Absolutely.
thing? For staff to notify the members of the committee, the finance committee that are going to be hearing this on Tuesday, to send emails pleading our case and the resolution that we passed against this de-annexation this afternoon. It's in the morning.
And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. There's a motion and a second. Is there any conversation? Not hearing. All say aye. Aye. Any opposed? You stand.